Disclaimer, this show is for educational purposes only and is not an alternative for clinical counseling. Please seek a mental health professional for your specific needs.
Welcome back to Intake Talk Show with your host, Bertha F. Barrett, licensed mental health counselor. Today, we're joined by two special guests, Marae Crockett, licensed family therapist, and Alexandra Roa, certified trauma healing professional. Our topic today, sweeping it under the rug, and how avoiding difficult emotions and experiences can impact your mental health. Your Intake podcast starts now.
Hello and welcome. I am so excited about this long overdue conversation. If you're new to the podcast, I'm thrilled you're here. The fact that you decided to click on this particular episode tells me something about you, and that is that you're done sweeping things under the rug. Those things that hurt you, that invisible rug that we all know about, and that you're ready to heal, grow, and let go of the things that cause you pain. This is Intake Talk Show, where it's time to shine the light from a mental health perspective. I am your host, Bertha Barrett, and today I have with me two beautiful professionals. Guest one is Marae Crockett. Marae is a licensed marriage and family therapist and founder of Evolving Healing House in North Carolina. She specializes in women's self-actualization, couples therapy, and trauma healing. Marae blends bold honesty with deep compassion, using somatic work and nervous system regulations to help people break unhealthy patterns and build relationships rooted in emotional safety. My second guest is Alexandra Roa. Alexandra is a certified trauma healing professional and founder of Evolving Inward with Alex, with a background in yogins, and Alex is going to have to help me with that.
Jungian.
Jungian studies
Yeah.
and art psychotherapy. Alex helps clients release triggers, reduce stress, and reconnect with themselves. Her work creates a safe, creative path toward emotional freedom, peace, and self-love. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank
you
you
for
for
having me.
being here, both you ladies. I'm excited about this topic today. As I said to the viewers, we all know about this topic. Everybody has heard the saying, sweep it under the rug. Okay, and I'm sure if you're like me, I am guilty at times of doing it myself. I know it has happened in my family. I've done it in relationships, and I know the consequences for doing it. So I'm going to start with you, Marae, and I just want you to briefly tell the people some more about yourself. And if there are two things that you wanted the viewers to get out of today, what would those two things be?
Yeah, so a little bit about me. I do a lot of systems work. I have a background in systems theory. And so when I help people, it's taking things like this into account, right? What are some of the family secrets that are affecting them directly, whether it's their relationship or just how they're viewing their own personal identity? So this is a topic that I talk about frequently if it comes up in therapy. So I'm really excited to be even talking about it because it's much needed. So two things that I want the viewers to take from this particular podcast. I want them to consider how silence is affecting them. And are they okay with it? Do they feel at peace with it? Or do they want to do something about it? So those are the things that I want them to kind of consider. Is it affecting them at all? And are they okay with it if it is affecting them?
Okay, I love that. Alex, tell the people something brief about yourself and answer the same two questions.
Yeah, so I actually am on a work visa in Barbados. I'm from Toronto, Canada, but I'm currently residing in Barbados. I've been here for 3.5 years. And the reason that I say that is because what I've noticed in working with people here as a different with regards to working with people in North America is there is a big culture around here around We don't talk about it. We don't acknowledge it. We don't, and it's very much what I've noticed is repressing. We just push it down. We just bury it down. We just bury it down, and so there's a whole bunch of other symptoms and side effects of that approach, which is a lot of heavily involved in the work that I do now. So what I want everyone hopefully to take away from today's talk is it's a good idea to acknowledge and honor what I would call the elephant in the room. Um, and secondly, when you don't feel loved or supported, especially by the people in your family or the people um, around this issue that we're burying under the rug, it's important to lean into loving and supporting yourself.
I love
And
that. I
honoring
love.
yourself. Yeah.
Okay, love it, ladies. I love that. So let's get into this topic. And as two mental health professionals, how would you define sweeping things under the rug in families or relationships? So whichever one of you want to go first, I'm good with that.
I'm cool with the order that we already have with
Okay,
Murray and
Marie, let's
Okay.
go.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. I would define it as completely dismissing it after it's brought up, right? So if something is brought to your attention, you've seen it, you've witnessed it, someone has told you a secret, and you just completely dismiss it, either right away or after a little bit of time.
Yeah.
That's sweeping it under the rug because you have left it in the past, so to speak, but it's still a secret. It's still something that is affecting someone in the family.
Okay. All right.
And I think that there's oftentimes that issues come up which are rooted in our personal histories that could be a source of shame or difficult emotions. So it becomes really challenging to communicate effectively, especially when other parties aren't fully aware of the emotional importance of whatever is being swept under the rug.
Yeah. Yeah. Not to mention there are generational things, right?
Mhm.
Because if we talk about this topic, I mean, we can go on for a while, but we're not. We're just
Yeah.
going to do the house show. But there are so many things that are being swept under these rugs, hurt, pain, disrespect. We can go on from childhood trauma to abuse, all of that in relationships, families included. And so the next question for you ladies are, what are some of the common consequences you've seen with families or relationships, okay, from avoiding addressing difficult truths?
Hmm. I'll say the thing that I see most because I work a lot with couples
Mm-hmm.
is I see them trying to replicate things based on false facts. Right. So they're trying to replicate a marriage like their parents, but they don't know what their parents' marriage was actually like. They're trying to create a family like the one that they had, but they're missing a lot of information about what actually happened behind that closed door.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so they're trying to do something that looks exactly the same, but they just don't have the information. Or the pieces that are left out are the pieces that actually help the family be sustainable and healthy. And they just have something that they shouldn't be replicating in the first place. Um, because of some other people's emotional pain, right? So they shouldn't be doing the thing that's going to trigger someone else in the family, but they don't know that because they don't know the family secret, right? So I would say that.
Okay. All right. Before you go, Alexander, I just want to
Mhm.
ask, all right, in context, I'm like examples, right?
Mhm,
Because the reality is, I hear what you're saying. Yeah. And I've seen it, right? I've seen it.
mhm,
And unfortunately, people tend, specifically in marriages, relationships, they tend to love people based on how they want to be loved, but they don't always understand what love looks like. And
mhm,
so they're mimicking this idea of what happen with mom and dad, okay? And unfortunately, because of this ideal, and we all know about conditioning, learned behavior, right? These ideas that they've seen or these things that they've learned from mom and dad, marriage implicitly or explicitly says that we don't talk about certain things,
Mhm.
right? We don't address it. We're going to leave it right where it happened. If it happened last week, we're not going to bring it up. It's
Mhm.
done now, right? Forget who feelings it hurt. All right. So if you
Mhm.
don't mind, can you just elaborate a little bit more on that?
Yeah, I'll use the example of infidelity
Mm-hmm.
in relationships and how some of the children don't know. Um, and they're trying to replicate a marriage like their parents. And then when um, even the idea of someone stepping out or
Mm-hmm.
flirting comes up, then the secret sometimes comes out that my parents actually did cheat or they did have to navigate infidelity.
Right.
And it rocks their world while also trying to navigate their own issue of infidelity or emotional cheating. Um, and so now they have to kind of sit with two different tough things at the
Mm-hmm.
same time. Um, does that answer your question in a way?
It does. It does.
Okay.
Alex?
Okay.
So I think that some common mental health consequences that I've seen in individuals, because
Mm-hmm.
that's primarily the work, no, that strictly is the work that I do, is things like stress, isolation, frustration, experiencing breakdowns in communication with the people in their family system, dysfunctional family system with regards to communication, and even just, caring for and loving one another. Um, I think also for the individual, it can involve challenge regulating difficult emotions. And I think end result is often also impacted, like self-esteem is adversely
Mm-hmm.
impacted.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, indeed, indeed. Because
Mhm.
again, it's based on these perceptions, right?
Mhm.
We all perceive
Mhm.
differently. And sometimes in families, we think because we have the same mom and dad, right? We
Mhm.
grew up in the same family, we see things the same way. But in reality, we're all individuals, all our own individual form with our own individual perception. And so, and oftentimes, what cause pain to one child, the other child may go, "Oh, that was nothing."
Mhm.
Right? And
Mhm.
so everybody overlooks it because the one child just says, "Oh, that was nothing." But the other child, based on how they perceived it, Alex, back to what you said, it may have affected their self-worth, their self-esteem, all of those things. And we see it quite often, right?
Yeah.
The idea that dad wasn't in their life, mom wasn't in their life, different things like that says something to a child. While one child goes and said, "Well, it's okay, he just wasn't there or she wasn't there." The other child sees it in a different light altogether and totally validates their self-worth off of that. So based on, go ahead, Alex. Mm-hmm.
And I think that even the tendency that people have of internalizing
Mm-hmm.
these things. So why is it being swept under the rug? There must be something that I'm doing wrong. There
Yes.
must be something wrong with me that nobody is willing or wants to engage in acknowledging whatever this issue is.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And I think that that's sort of when the energy doesn't get validated externally, then it becomes internal, which is
Yeah.
where I think also there's a piece of the self-esteem being adversely impacted.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I totally agree. The one thing that I hear, and I don't mean in my practice, I mean even in my personal relationships, is people saying, "Well, maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm too much. Maybe I
Mhm.
should leave it alone. Maybe,
Yeah.
it's just me trying to do too much, trying to, I should just, everybody just says, it happened then. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm just overly sensitive,
Mhm.
but they're hurting and
Yeah.
they don't know how to navigate that hurt because everybody else is saying, no, leave that thing right there. Right. But they're feeling the pain. So
Mhm.
this is why I wanted to have this conversation. Because for me, I know as a person, as a mother, a wife, now, Gigi, right? And in my own personal relationships, and a survivor of trauma myself, I know what it's like to sweep things under the rug. And I know the consequences of it. Often I talk to people about internal hygiene, and this thing that we do to fix ourselves up, externally because we're conditioned in that way to look right, to present ourselves accordingly, right? And on the inside, though, is chaos, totally
Mhm.
stink, right? And that's what I see that rug as, this invisible rug that we all sweep on. It has become a mountain. And it's smelling up the environment, the internal environment of a lot of people. And they're uncomfortable in this environment, but they don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Okay?
It's very isolating for those
Mm-hmm.
people. Like,
Yeah.
even the statement, "Well, maybe it's just me, maybe
Mm-hmm.
I'm too sensitive," right? You can hear them saying, "I feel alone in this. Maybe I should just join everyone else."
Mm. Mm.
And it isolates people in their own experience of knowing the truth and acknowledging the truth.
I agree. I agree. Alex?
And I think where I guess my cell for healing and doing the work and finding another way to take it out of under the rug
Mm-hmm.
is that what you're doing in that case is just drawing out the suffering by not acknowledging it, by then it becoming part of your identity,
Mm.
by then it becoming how you relate to the world and all of that. All you're doing is taking this elephant, as I described at the beginning, the elephant in the room, and just prolonging its adverse effects. And again, connecting more deeply with it, which is then really impacting your identity
Mhm.
and your sense of self, right?
Mm. I love that. Okay. Ladies,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna move away from the questions based on what we're
Hmm.
talking about right now, just for a brief moment.
Hmm.
What do you say to that person who is listening and they themselves have said to family members, you know, just leave that alone because what you're trying to do is just point the finger and blame people for your own messed up life and your own emotions. What do you say to that person? Because reality is, I've heard people say that, right? And I've seen when they say it, how it affects the person that they're saying it to. What would you
Hmm.
say to that person to help them understand that this idea of just leaving it alone? Because it's not about blame. This is not what this is about. This is not about pointing the finger that says, oh, you hurt me, you did this. But it's really about understanding that rug that goes with you individually. And how do you make sure that you lift that rug up now and you start
Hmm.
cleaning all of that stuff that has caused you pain, that has caused you trauma, confusion, chaos? How do you do that even though somebody is telling you, leave that thing alone?
Hmm. I like this question. I feel like there's so many different answers to this, but to start with, I would say, to validate your own experience,
Mm,
because they may not even have the capacity to validate it for you,
mm,
right? Maybe their nervous system can't even handle the truth. And so they're going to shut down about it. They're going to run from it. And that doesn't mean that you have to do the same.
I love
It
it.
doesn't mean you have to be quiet, especially if you can handle the truth,
I love
which if you're saying something, you're already proving that you can handle the
it.
truth.
Mm,
So validate yourself and acknowledge people have their own limitations and
mm,
what they can actually handle. And it's unfortunate, but I think it helps set the expectation of what people can actually do based on the tools that they have.
mm,
Um, and to move forward without them sometimes.
ah, I love that. I love that,
Hmm.
Alex.
And I think, to kind of piggyback off of what you said, I think that sometimes when there's invalidating situations in the household, things that, have been swept under the rug and we've been cultured around understanding that that's how it is. If we feel the need to bring it out, that tells me that in your own intuition and in your own instincts, you're feeling that this isn't okay.
Mhm.
And to ignore it is to disconnect from yourself
Mhm.
and to ignore your inner voice and lose touch with your inner voice and your inner, right? Your inner intuition, sense of self, instincts, all of those things. And so then it I think can very easily shift into a crisis of identity
Mhm.
too, right? Because if I don't have that voice telling me who I am and how I want to live and what I think is right and wrong, then what do I have? So with regards to how I would encourage somebody to approach it if someone discourages the conversation, is to ask themselves that. Do you feel that there's an issue here? Do you feel that this is something worth talking about? Okay. So why is that person's opinion or ideas about this issue more valid and important than yours? And why do they have more weight than yours? And I think that could then sort of give like fire to motivation, and while also again positively nurturing um, the person's sense of self and esteem. Really.
All right. All right. I love that. I love that. Ladies, based on the work that both of you do, what are some strategies that you've seen to help people with these things? Because I'm hearing both of you all, and what I'm hearing at the back of my head is, what about that person who's saying, but no, in my house? Because we've all heard it. What goes on in my house, in this house, stays in this house, right? And often, and we know it, it causes shame, it causes guilt, because now I'm betraying family, I'm betraying culture, I'm betraying people by trying to heal myself, by talking about it, even in therapy, right? By
Mhm.
talking about it. Now it feels like a shame and a guilt, because now, that conditioning with what goes on in this house, it stays in this house, has now, deeply been embedded in their belief system, and to a point that it is called shame. So how do you help people with that?
Hmm. This may sound really simple, but I think people need it.
Mm.
Um, I like to tell people to give themselves permission, like open the door for themselves.
Mhm.
Do you have permission to use your voice and say what it is that you need to say
Mhm.
about your own experience?
Mhm.
Right? So continuously just giving yourself your own permission is very helpful, because if you're waiting for your family to say, "Okay, this is the right time to tell the secret now," you're going to be waiting forever. Right? So you have to give yourself that own permission. Um, to just use your voice and tell it to whoever you want to tell it to,
Mhm.
um, because it's going to feel heavy either way. Doesn't matter who you tell. If you tell your therapist, it's still going to feel heavy because you're not used to talking about it. If you tell your best friend, it's going to feel heavy because you're wondering how they view you.
Mhm.
You just have to get it out.
I love it. I love it. Alex.
And I think coming from a place of empathy towards the family who may be the source of the shame. So reminding, the client that y- the responses from the members of your family and the way that they've sort of set up this system of shame around the issue or not wanting to talk about it isn't about you. It's about their capacity to not be present and supportive. And so we're not internalizing stuff. We're realizing that there are separate identities and separate cultures and belief systems. And just because, you used at the beginning about the one child may feel one way and another child may
Mhm.
feel another way, it's the same analogy,
Mhm.
only it's that it's not about you and what you want. It's that they don't have the capacity to cope with it or face it or acknowledge it.
Okay. All right. How does
Yeah.
breaking the silence affect not only the individual, the family system as a whole? And is it really necessary to bring these conversations out among the family, right? Because oftentimes it feels like, okay, I'm healing, but we still need to talk about it because every time I go around my family, I can feel it, right? Now, how does, actually breaking the silence, cleaning up under that rug, that invisible rug, how does it, help not only the individual, but also the family system or, Marie, even in marriages?
Hmm. How does breaking the silence help the family
Mm-hmm.
system? I think it helps because I want to be realistic
Okay.
about how it'll potentially may affect the family
Mm-hmm.
system. Even if you break the silence, everyone in the family may not care, may not even acknowledge the truth, but maybe one person in the family will.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it may hit the younger generation, or maybe it may hit your favorite cousin or whoever it is. Um, so breaking the silence can be helpful for someone in the family, but it may not affect the entire family enough to change the family system and how they share secrets.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And do you think it's necessary though to actually talk about it, bring it out? We all talk about let's have a family meeting.
Mhm.
Let's talk about these things because in most families there is an elephant in the room. There's an elephant in the room, and we tolerate and we smile, and yeah, is it necessary though to bring it out? No, I'm
I
coming
think
back.
it's
Uh-huh.
I think necessary is mm, depending on do you want a healthier family?
Okay.
Right? Is it necessary to have a healthy family, or do you just want a family that's alive and surviving?
All right. All right,
Um,
Alex.
yeah.
Same question. Same question.
I mean, I think there's so many variables to
Mhm.
consider, right? There's so many personalities. There's so many. It's hard to, I think, have a sort of one track answer to this question, but for sure it can open up a Pandora's box too,
Mhm.
right? One person speaks up, and then everyone, well, what about this, and what about this, and blah, 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 and then right, and then everything's out in the open. Um, but do I think somebody should speak up? Um, I think if I think it's important for everybody to really honor themselves and their truth. So if
Mm.
that's the case, then yes. If that's part of what is necessary for you to do that, absolutely speak up. But then as Marie was saying, it can also open up a pathway for others to
Mhm.
feel safe and realize the importance of sharing, right? So my older brother did it. And, now he's achieved this and he got it off his chest and he voiced how he feels. Now I realize that this is a path that is a good path for me to take too, because I've seen what happens when he did it or whoever did it, right?
Mhm.
I think there was a second part to the question that I've lost track of.
Yeah, I was asking that second part was, is it even necessary to bring up the conversation?
Is it? Yeah, that's what I've answered it. Yeah. I
Yeah,
think
Mhm.
it's could be,
yeah.
Mhm.
I
could
mean,
very well be. Yeah.
yeah, it could be, right? Specifically
Mhm.
because we all know that having that supportive network is everything.
Mhm.
And, sometimes family can be that, sometimes not, right?
Mhm.
But, unfortunately, this idea of this rug that we all know about has oftentimes caused a division in families,
Mhm.
has oftentimes caused a division in marriage. Where people are walking around the house, they live in the same house, but now they just speaking, they become roommates,
Mhm.
right? Or families, are starting to separate, and now everybody's looking like, well, what about the younger generation? We're not talking, we don't get along anymore. Because again, let me just, because I'm for real, you all, this is what this show is about, right? I'm not a therapist here. I'm a therapist, but I'm not a therapist here. So I keep it real. And I want to say professional though. The reality is, I know for me, when my grandmothers were alive, oh, they made sure family was it. Okay. There
Mhm.
was, I mean, on Sundays, on Saturdays, you have these family reunions. These elderly people were there to make sure that family was there. Family was important. But you better not bring up anything that's
Mhm.
going to mess up this gathering. And unfortunately, when they pass, like in most families, when these elderly people pass who understand significance of family, or they were trying to build this unit of family, but they did it in a way where they didn't give space to talk about the things that were going on. Okay. So when they pass now family starts to separate. And the newer generation doesn't have the same care and unity as I saw it, right? That I had when I was growing up. Okay. Even with, some of the stink that was in the room, I knew all my family, right? How do you deal with that? Because again, I'm noticing that is what's happening. I hear a lot of people on social media, the TikTok videos, all of this, family is just not family anymore, everybody's going their separate ways. And it's true, family is not family anymore. And most of the time when you look at it, it's because it's those elderly people, those people that was trying to keep families together, grandparents, all right? They were having the Sunday dinners. They was making sure that we had the family reunions, right? And when you started acting up, they were strict to say, not here. We're not having that here, okay?
Mhm.
How does somebody now help themselves kind of, and I want you to look at it from this standpoint. Miranda, you work with the nervous system. Alex, I know you always on social media talking about how this body holds on to the trauma, right? Can we talk about how this body holds on to stuff that has been hidden, swept under the rug, and why these separations are occurring? Because the body is saying something. Can we
Mhm.
talk about that?
Yeah, I think we should.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think what we're seeing now is a consequence of those grandparents who couldn't hold emotional safety for the
Mm-hmm.
family members.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So now people are more aware of how they feel in their
Right.
body when they go around certain family members and how they don't want to pretend like they like this person who abused them or mistreated them
Mm-hmm.
or neglected them, um, overlooked them. Right. They don't want to be around those people because they feel anxious or they feel sad that nothing has changed and it's showing up in how they feel in their body. They're having an actual physical response to being around some of these family members. And so they do what most people do when they don't want to feel pain. They avoid get togethers
Mm,
or they come and then they leave fairly quickly because they don't want to have to deal with having intense anxiety being around certain people.
mm,
Somebody messaged me recently, I want to say within the last 2 days on TikTok from the island, from Barbados, saying, this is the way our grandmothers did it. This is the way our great, like historically, our ancestors did it, was to just
right.
push it down, push it down, push it down. And I think that there's like especially now with social media and how easy it is to share information on the internet and all of that, an awareness of just because this is how it's always done, it doesn't mean this is the best way.
Right.
And I mean, I'm sure there's exceptions. There's in lots of areas, but just because your grandmother suffered and your great grandmother suffered and you're held it in and had all of this pent up stuff that had nowhere to go, doesn't mean that that's the best option for you, because there's alternatives now.
Mhm.
And there's this whole, can we call it a movement maybe,
Mhm,
around,
Mhm.
and around knowledge, around healing, around self, like you were saying in your work, Murray, self-actualization.
mhm,
Like
Mhm.
that's, it's important to connect with yourself and honor yourself and self-actualize. Really,
Mhm.
just again, just because they did it, which is exactly what you said, doesn't mean that this is the best way for you now here. They also probably rode a horse to work. That doesn't mean you're still riding a horse to work, it's things change, right?
Right. What I'm hearing both of you all say is how important it is to create those self boundaries, right?
Yes.
You are
Yes.
healing.
And it's
Okay.
hard. Sorry to
Yes.
interrupt you. It's hard. It's
Yeah.
so hard. Yeah.
Yeah.
But important.
Yes. And I'm one of those people, I say all the time, and I live by this principle. It's only hard when you say it's hard, right? Because that thing jumps right back in that
All right.
subconscious. Every
All
time
right.
you say it's
Yeah.
hard,
Yeah.
you're telling that
Yeah.
brain, no, we can't do
Yeah.
this. And the
Yeah. You're
reality
right.
is we can, because our brain is plastic, flexible, right? And you want to be able to rewire that brain, okay? And so that is the importance of these self boundaries. Creating those self boundaries to actually say, because this is the problem too that I know, okay? To actually say to self that I'm valuable. I'm worthy enough to say, no, I can't do this, right? Yes, I love my family, but no, I cannot do this. Because you're right, Lori. I may have this uncle, this cousin, this person who molested me every time I go around, and now they want me to interact with this person. And every time I interact with this person, I'm feeling something in my body. So now I set the boundary for myself, and I go, no, I'm not doing that, right? Because that's what it's
Because I
about.
love me more. Because I love me
Exactly.
more.
Exactly. And what it's like when you don't set those self boundaries, because are you not reinforcing what that thing did to you, what it said to you, that I'm not worthy? Because everybody's keeping this thing a secret. And by keeping it a secret, it's saying, well, I'm not worthy enough. They don't care. Nobody loves you, right? And so it's important to create those boundaries for yourself. And sometimes, can we be real, even with family? Okay.
Yeah.
And it's if they don't understand and if they don't support it, then is this the best environment, or are these the best people to help you on your journey anyways? Respectfully.
Yes. Mara, you were going to say something?
I was
Sorry.
going to say, and creating those self boundaries helps the people that you're in relationships with understand what you need,
Mm.
right? So they need to know that you don't want to be around this family member because of what happened. And it's not something that you're just doing just because, right? They need to know how to support you.
I love that. I love that. This is the thing that I always say, right?
I think that's great.
And that is that you have to live with yourself for the rest of your life. Guaranteed, right? 10 years up the road, 20 years up the road, you are going to be with you. That is not guaranteed for anybody else in your life. And if you don't know how to take care of you, to love you, to respect you, to prioritize you, and that is not selfish, because I'm not saying you got to cut everybody out. I'm saying you got to learn the balance to say that I have to live with me, my emotions, my thoughts, my feelings. I have to live with it, the trauma, and heal from it, and go on with my life after I'm healing. All of these things that trauma causes in my physiological sense of self, right? With that, it is so important that you understand how to take care of yourself, right? And so, Alex, like you said, if family don't get it, that's okay. Because I'm not guaranteed to live with family for the rest of my life. Oh, but I'm so guaranteed to live with me, right? I'm so guaranteed to go lay down in that bed and go to sleep with myself. That's not guaranteed for anybody else. And so I'm hoping that listeners, anybody who's listening to this, understand the importance of setting those boundaries. Understand that it is okay to heal, to begin to pull these things from under that rug, regardless of who understands, regardless of who accepts it. If it is you feeling it, if it is you going through the emotional pain and chaos, all of this, then it is time for you now to pull it from up under the rug and find your healing place. Oh, ladies, I can go on. I'm passionate about these things.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mhm.
I'm very
Gotcha.
passionate about these conversations because, again, these are the things that we don't talk about. And these are the things that affect us, our overall health. It's not just about mental health, it's our overall health because mental health is health.
Mhm.
And that's what I want people to understand. Mental health is health. Okay. And so we have to, work on this all together and change our way of thinking around mental health, this emotional self that we deal with. Over 90% of who we are is internal.
Mhm.
Right. And we got to get it. Alex.
And there's this what massive acceptance around taking care of your physical body.
Yes.
People are conscious of what they eat. People make sure to get some physical activity in, and it's accepted. And no one says, hey, what do you mean you're going to work on your body? Well, there must be something wrong with you. Are you
Mhm.
crazy? No, it's part of self-care. In addition, I believe mental health should have a similar kind of approach.
Mm-hmm.
We take care of our physical bodies. We should absolutely grant the same care and respect to our mental bodies, our mental selves,
Mhm.
right?
I love that.
Everybody has it. There's no shame,
Exactly.
No, I don't tell someone who's doing push-ups that there's something wrong with them. It's, it's the same kind of concept. It's just in a different part of yourself.
I love it. I love it. If you are a professional or someone with a story and would like to be a guest on the show, go to our website, intaketalkshow.com, and complete the form to be a guest. Perhaps you are someone with a question or comment that you would like addressed on the show. Again, go to our website, intaketalkshow.com, and complete the contact form. I hope to see you soon. And remember to continue to talk about mental health and how to make yours a priority.
This wraps up part 1 of our conversation with Marae and Alexandra. Did you enjoy today's episode? We'd love to hear from you. Share your comments, questions, and reflections on YouTube, Facebook, or your favorite podcast platform. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you never miss an episode. Join us next week as we continue and conclude our conversation with Marae and Alexandra on Sweeping It Under the Rug. Thanks for listening.